Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of SuperNova Commencements. I'm Kashi Sehgal, and we are broadcasting live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. You can really find us anywhere. You can also search us anywhere at SuperNova Commencements. Welcome, graduates. We're really excited to have you today. Congratulations on finishing. Finishing is so important, and it's a skill that not everybody has, so congrats to you. We have an amazing show today and a very special guest with us, and I want to bring her up on screen. We want to welcome Shan Cooper to our show. Everybody say hi, Shan. Hi, Shan.
Hi.
So Shan, I've known for a while. She has always given me great advice, but right now she is the executive director for the Atlanta Committee for Progress. And she used to be with Westrock. She was the chief transformation officer at Westrock. She was also with Lockheed Martin, vice president and general manager for Lockheed Martin. So she has had many careers and she has tried to retire many times, but she's too great to have around, and we keep sucking her back into the city to help. So Shan, we're so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here, Kashi. Thank you for having me today. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, so tell us, where did you go to school? Who was your graduation speaker? Do you remember what they said?
Oh my gosh. So I went to school for college at Emory University here in Atlanta. And my graduation speaker undergrad was Dr. Janetta Coles. At that time, she was the president of Spelman College, which many of the students may have heard of here in Atlanta. And then I really don't remember my graduate school speaker, which is very sad, I know. I think I was just excited to achieve that milestone. But Dr. Cole was absolutely fantastic.
What did she say?
Well, she really talked, and the one thing I remember is she talked about never giving up. That staying focused on your goal, what you wanted to achieve. And if when you're talking to hundreds of students, right? That's a very broad topic, but we got to get to that because you do need to stay focused and understand where your passions are and what you really want to be doing with your life. So it was great advice for us. Great advice.
Yeah, great advice. Persistence is key. Absolutely. So, you know, in doing research for this, I saw that you majored in biology and religion.
Yes.
So how did you go from biology and religion to the community role that you are playing now, and everything in between? What was that path like?
It was a very tricky path, Kashi. So when I went to Emory, I came here to Emory to go to medical school. And I grew up in a small town in Alabama where my dad was a pastor. As a matter of fact, he's still pastoring a church today. And I came to Emory because I really wanted to understand religions beyond my own faith, but I also had intentions of being a doctor. And my friends actually teased me that I came to Emory to be a witch doctor, which was not exactly true. But during my senior year of college, I took the MCAT, which is a test that gets you into medical school. But I walked out of that test and realized, gosh, I really need to probably get a job now. And we were a little poor growing up, and I really needed to kind of get established here. I really wanted to stay in Atlanta. I love the city, wanted to stay here in Georgia and not go back to Alabama. And so I decided at that point I would do a career shift. And I actually started to study and to work in the business world. My first job out of college, I was actually a bank teller. So how do you go from being a bank teller to building military aircraft and weapon systems to doing all these other wonderful things I've had the honor of doing? It's kind of crazy, but that was how I got to the business world. Just realized that I needed to have a job, needed to have income coming in. So I changed my trajectory in terms of my studies, went to work, and then came back and got my master's degree. So very crazy path there, but
yeah. A lot of women say that they have this thing called the imposter syndrome, right? Where they don't feel like they have the skill set to go into the job that maybe
you froze just a little bit.
Yeah, we're back. sorry about that. Not sure what happened, but live streaming, all about bandwidth. And, you know, my husband upstairs is on video calls all day long. So maybe that's what we're competing for signal. Women who have this imposter syndrome, sounds like you were fearless. How did you develop that? Is that something you've always had, or was it a thick skin you had to grow? Like, how did you just jump?
Right. So I think it starts with having a very strong. For me, it was starting with having a very strong mother who always told me I could do anything I wanted to do. So from my perspective, there were no limits into what I could do with my career. But I'll tell you, when I transitioned, when I worked at Lockheed Martin, and did become the first woman to lead the aeronautics division where I was leading, it wasn't imposter syndrome, but there was a recognition that there were things about this job that I would have to go learn. And so, but I decided I wouldn't let that hold me back, because oftentimes when you go into a new job or a new area of study or something new, you have to learn something. And so I just purposed in my mind that I was going, no, I didn't know how at that point to build military aircraft and weapon systems, but I was determined that I was going to learn that. And until I got that under my belt, I just continued to ask questions, wasn't shy about asking for help, asking questions, but recognizing that people were looking to me to lead. So I had to go do my homework. I had to go and learn the role. And so until I got my footing under me, it took me a couple of months to get, about 3 months to get there. And that was being there every day on the production floor, asking questions, and how do we do that? And why do we build that way? I got it. And I wasn't embarrassed about it at all. But I said, I've got to learn this job. So I went to do that. And so I would encourage our students today, you're going to be asked to do things that you've never done before. Don't be afraid. Walk right into it. Ask the right questions. Ask for help when you need it, but go and learn what you need to learn. And then you'll just take it from there and just take it to the next level. And so that's my approach, right? But you just ask the questions.
And I think that's such a key point, is ask questions. Don't be afraid to look like you don't know something, because nobody thinks you know everything, right? And being willing to learn is such a key skill set and quality in an employee and a leader, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I would say the other thing that helped me, Kashi, was having mentors. Having either done the job before me or parts of the job, or understood the work area, the place I was going to work. So I've moved around a lot in my career as well. But understanding that, having good mentors who would tell me what was good, what wasn't so good, where I needed to do better, where I need to learn more. And those are people who really just were gracious with their time and were willing to help me. And then I could ask those questions that may not have felt like, dumb questions, but I could ask those questions and continue to learn. So finding good mentors is also very important.
Absolutely. You know, along those lines, the mission for the Atlantic Committee for Progress is, or at least the role is, that it provides leadership on key issues that are important to the economic growth of the city and inclusion for all citizens. We've got university presidents and CEOs and civic leaders and all these amazing leaders throughout the city involved and as part of the Atlantic Committee for Progress. What role will the Atlantic Committee for Progress play in what is going on today in the city with protests and really advancing the quality of life for our Black citizens?
So first of all, as an African American, this is a very, very important topic to me. And as the leader of the Atlantic Committee for Progress, I can tell you that our business leaders, our university leaders are all very concerned about where do we go as a society, where do we go as a community. Atlanta has been a city that's long been proud of its heritage in terms that we all come together and we work together, right? I mean, the civil rights movement had its birthing right here in our city. You know, we had Dr. here, we have Ambassador Young here, and so we can learn from the past. And so I think from our perspective, what we're trying to do in support of the mayor is to put together ideas and a framework that she can start to think about in terms of how do you address anti-racism, right? And the role that all of us have to do in that. But it starts with actually talking to each other. It starts with communicating. It starts with having those what may be uncomfortable conversations and ask them the question on an individual level, what do I have to do to change? What do I have to do to be open to someone who's different from me? What is it I have to do? And we're all having that conversation. What more can we do? There are things that we can invest in, community things we can stand up and start. Great organizations doing that work today, but it starts with us all having a conversation. And I've been excited because I have had an opportunity to talk to young people. I do consider myself young, but not as young.
Absolutely.
I've had the chance to talk to some college students here in the city, and a couple of students over at Spelman and at Clark Atlanta, our HBCUs here in the city, to understand what's important. And it's been amazing. It's been a learning journey for me because, who would have thought that, I could learn something new from this generation, but they have a lot to offer. And they really see the world very differently. They see us coming together, being united. And I think it'll be this next generation that gets us out there and gets us to a place where we're not having to continue to have these conversations in the future. The work is hard. The work is challenging. Some things won't happen fast. But this generation, they're willing to talk about it. They're willing to ask the hard questions of those of us who've been before them, right? And so I'm learning from this generation that's behind me. What is it that we have to do differently? And they start with communicating, talking to each other, understanding differences, holding each other accountable, right? I see the world very differently than some of my colleagues, but we talk about that. And it's been an education process for me because I do need to see this from the police perspective. I do need to see it from the young people's perspective and so forth and so on. And so, but it starts with communication, and they're encouraging us to do that. And I think that's just great. Now we just have to do it.
Absolutely. And communication is key across all levels. So I love that that's their feedback. It's not staying in silos. It's being a bridge, right? So I'm so glad that that's their perspective. Okay, so we have a question coming in from Jeff Hillemeyer, who we both, I know, love and adore.
Yeah.
He's one of my mentors and very amazing friends. But so I'll just read this. He says that I consider Shan both a friend and a mentor. Please say hi. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
My question for her is, for leaders today that want to make a stand on social issues, how should they weigh that against their role with their company? Is there conflict? Should business leaders be taking stands or leave that to politicians? Yeah, like what role do companies really play in something like this? What is private business's role?
Right. So I think, sometimes we forget that business is made up of people, right? Delta, we think it's Delta and it's just an entity, but that entity is made up of individual people who bleed, who have hearts, who need nurturing, who need caring. Because of that, and because those employees, and even Jeff's employees, he's built a fantastic organization, a fantastic company. But because those employees go back to their communities, but they spend most of their time probably in the workplace, working and giving back to the company, I think it's absolutely important and critical that leaders, particularly the top leader of the company, take a stand, take a position. I think it's okay. One of the things that I've had leaders say to me was that, Shan, I'm not sure what I should be saying, right? I don't have the answers. It's okay to be vulnerable at this time. It's okay to say to your employees and to your teammates, look, this concerns me. My heart aches today for our community, but I don't have the answer. But what we can do collectively as a team, we can think about our workplace and how we work better together. And really, that's where conversations actually start, right there in the workplace. So I can assure you that people are walking around wanting to say something. And when the leader steps out to say, I'm hurting, feel this, or this concerns me, it gives the permission, right? Then everyone starts to say, well, I'm concerned as well. But I think leaders absolutely, industry, business, however you want to talk about, have a leadership role to take. That's on the other side. The other side is, as we looked at putting our framework together for the mayor, and we talked about what's needed in community, economic mobility, right? Giving everybody a chance to have a successful career, a successful life, to make money, to care for their families. And that's what we all, and business certainly has a role to play in that regard. And so we're looking at CP to say, what can we do within our individual businesses starting first? Because again, businesses are made up of people who have hearts and who need us as leaders. So go do it, Jeff. I know you have already, but go do it.
He's doing a great job with his company, Dragon. I think that's wonderful. Businesses are made up of people, and stakeholders can look like so many different types of groups, right? It's not just the shareholders who own pieces of the company and who ultimately the leadership reports to, but you're also these days reporting to your community, which is made up of employees and consumers and the community that your business is in, so there's so many stakeholders now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So part of getting ahead and growing your career, I think, is being heard. And when you have ideas, being able to voice them in a way that people understand, you maybe build consensus, but at least your ideas are being put forward and they're being heard. How have you done that throughout your career? How have you put yourself and your ideas and what you want to get accomplished forward in a way that people have understood what you're trying to do and have gotten on board? You've been at Westrock, you've been at Lockheed Martin. These are very, some would say, male-oriented businesses. And you were a woman and you look different, right? From probably most of the people there. How did you do this? How would you tell students or young professionals today to use this skill set?
Right, absolutely. One of the things that my dad taught me early in my career, and it was something that I had to learn, and that was my first management job, and I really had not had any training on how to really manage people and engage them to get the work that you need to get done. And I remember complaining to my dad one day, and he said to me that, sweetie, you think that you can be directive and tell people what to do when you really need to be good at asking smart questions so that to help them discover where you want them to go. That was a very powerful teaching moment for me. And I've used that throughout my career, not asking questions to be a smart aleck or to embarrass people, but asking questions in a way that get people to think about the world differently and kind of see it from my perspective. And what asking questions does, it doesn't put, in a corner where you're stuck on your own view, but it starts a conversation. It starts a dialogue. And often it can just be, I was thinking about this differently. Have you thought about XYZ? Or looking at the problem in a different light and saying, would this particular angle or approach this problem work? And if so, why? And if not, why not? Right? So it's a questioning technique that I've learned, one, to ensure that my voice is heard. And I'll have to admit, Kashi, I've never been shy about things that I felt were not appropriate in the workplace. And I'll share an example. So I can remember when I worked in human resources and I was at a training program and I got kind of lost coming back from the break of the training class. Got lost, couldn't find my way back to the training class. I finally did, but I was a few minutes late and I really just, but I couldn't find the restroom. It was a big place. It was very, I couldn't find the women's restroom. Let me say that, because you mentioned that male-dominated workplace I've been in. And so I could find the men's restroom, but not the women's restroom. I came back late, and the instructor, I apologized. I apologized for being late. I couldn't find the restroom. One of the participants in the class said to me, "That's because women should be at home." Now, I could have taken that very different level, and I'm sure there are people out there saying, "Now, Shan, tell him off." Not to do that. I chose to look at this gentleman, and he was a much older gentleman than myself, of a different race, what have you. But I said to him, "Would you want your wife or your daughter to be able to find the restroom?" And it just caught him off guard, because I'm sure he was expecting me to be very angry and crazy, whatever. And I wasn't. I just decided I just asked him a question. And he sat and he thought for just a second. He said, "Yes, ma'am, I would. I'm sorry." And
Oh, wow.
so sometimes you just have to bring it back to people's own space, right? Where they are, meet them where they are. Was the statement inappropriate? Absolutely it was. I was in human resources. Could I have fired that gentleman? Yes, right? I chose to do that. I chose to make it a teachable moment. And so sometimes it's about being really good too at managing your emotions. Notice I'm not saying that you can't have emotions because we're human and we will, but it's about how you approach the situation, right? I could have screamed, I could have said, "How dare you?" I probably could have kicked him, I don't know, but and so managing our emotions is a powerful tool that we each individually have, right? Allow your voice to not be heard. Don't be silent around things that are important to you, but learn how to bring people into the conversation. And the way that I do it is just by asking smart questions.
I think that is a piece of advice. We keep going back to asking questions. I've always thought that is the best way to lead. I think that's the role of an entrepreneur, is to ask the right questions, right? To figure out how to move the business forward. Obviously, that's how I approach a lot of my life. But going back to even the conversations you've been having with students on what's going on in the world today, even they're saying communicate, ask questions, have a dialogue. So, I think what you keep stressing is that the way to journey through life is through communication and open communication.
Yes, yes. I tell people often you can't over communicate. You just can't over communicate.
My dad definitely feels that way, right? He over communicates all the time. That's why his
I'm
books
going on
called
record,
Blue.
and I'm going on record today saying I love your dad for that, because you're absolutely right. He's really good at it.
Sometimes too good at it.
Particularly when those things can be emotional, right? Or they can be so personal to you as an individual, you can't over communicate.
That's right. That's right. So you're on the Technical College System of Georgia board, and I think technical colleges are so underappreciated as the role that they play in society and the role they can play. What is education going to look like in 2 years or 5 years, given how Corona and COVID-19 has changed the way education is functioning now? Is it going to evolve entirely, even in the sense, as we're talking about Black Lives Matter and making things more equitable, education is a great equalizer in many ways. There are problems with the educational system, but in general, having an education really gives you a lot more tools. Could education one day be free, or could community colleges be free and we create some kind of model where it's varying costs as you go up the ladder to a four-year college? What do you think education is going to look like?
Yeah. So I think education in the coming years will be very, very different than what we experience, than what I experienced, right? That four-year institution. I think we as a country, we're finally starting to realize that to be successful, you don't have to attend a four-year institution. You can leverage a technical college system. And fortunately for the state of Georgia, we've got a wonderful network of technical colleges across the state. And what's the difference between the both of those? I think you get both give you a grounding and a good sound, education. I think the technical college system is for those students who really want to be in a place where they are working with their hands, where they can, just like the four-year institution, own their own businesses and those kinds of things. But it does cost a little bit less to go to a technical college, right?
Mm-hmm.
I worked at Lockheed Martin. I needed students from all kinds of institutions. I needed, for those folks who were actually building the military aircraft, most of those folks came to us from the technical college systems, and we loved that. I also had physicists and scientists at Lockheed Martin, as well as financial folks and accountants. And a lot of those folks came from four-year institutions. So I think there's a place for both to exist in the world. But I think, again, as we look at the impact of coronavirus, we're going to have to rethink education and what it looks like and what it feels like. And I think there are going to be models, hybrid models. You'll have those models where the learning will be via technology. You'll have models where you still have a classroom setting, though those classroom settings will be much smaller. Smaller teacher to or instructor to student ratio. I serve on the board, a trustee at Emory University, and we've decided that, you know what, we're going to offer both to our students. So if students want to leverage technology to learn, they'll have it as an option. They'll get the same instruction because we'll just stream the faculty member as he or she are teaching, the students who've opted. Right? But I think it's going to be a very different scenario. I think more and more what I'm excited about, and I'm so glad Jeff is on the call, because one of the areas I know that some of the students are really getting excited about is entrepreneurship, right? And oftentimes, in some of our four-year institutions, that's not a clear focus, right? It's not a clear focus even in our technical schools, but I think we'll have more and more out of this experience. We're going to have a lot more innovation out, and I think a lot of that will come from students who are experiencing the world in a different way than we are, right? And so I think we could reach a point where education is not with the textbook. It's what you can get out there on the internet. And I know my niece, who's about 13 now, she doesn't have textbooks in her schools. I initially thought that was crazy and insane, right? Right? But
you're going to learn how to do surgery through YouTube videos, right?
It scares me, Kashi, but I tell you what, she's one of the smartest young ladies I think I've ever known, right at 13. But what she's been able to do is they're actually getting out there and they're learning experientially. You know, they're learning by the hands-on. They're discovering the world versus sitting in a classroom all day. So I do think education 2 years from now will be very, very different. And which means that we have to be able to adapt to new and different learning styles. I mean, I think you and I probably learn very differently, right? I'm a very visual learner. You're so intelligent. You probably don't need any of that, but but okay. I think it will be different. And I think we're going to have to, particularly if we're going to bring the economy back, we got to all start to think like entrepreneurs. We really, really do, and how we do this differently.
Yeah, I think you're right. Entrepreneurship is about thinking on your feet, asking questions, identifying problems, and then finding solutions. And all of those are life skills.
Exactly. And you do that every day. So you know exactly what that means. Yeah.
So we have a question from a student, Tammy. What is your advice for not letting what others think of you get to you?
Oh, Tammy, you just can't do that. Absolutely. So I'll tell you, because I've always been pretty confident, but I've had moments where people have not liked me as much as I love myself, right? And I'll give you an example. I can remember walking into a meeting with some of my colleagues, and we were working on how we were going to restructure business, what have you. And when my colleague presented the new business model, he had kindly just not included me on the chart. So I didn't know if I was if he was saying I shouldn't be at the company or if I should do something else or what have you, right? And in those situations, again, maintaining the emotion, being confident about who you are. And so I just asked the question because you know he could have just forgotten, right, or omitted me just by accident. I realized that it wasn't, but that's okay. I wanted to play it out differently, you know, in front of my other colleagues. And by the time I was done questioning his thought pattern, it became very clear to those around the room that his actions had not been appropriate. Now, it was clear that he didn't care for me, but I didn't let that stop me. I was there to do a job, a task. I was there to work with this group of people. And I was determined I was going to do that. So in the end, I looked like the bigger person in it all. But you're always going to find people who don't like you. What you've got to be sure about, you got to be sure though about who you are, and stand for the values that you have. Right? I tell people I can learn things, I can do things a different way, but there are values that my parents taught me, that my grandparents taught me, that are non-negotiable. Right? So integrity, for example, is one of those. You're never to find anyone who's ever said that, well, Shan was dishonest with me or didn't represent the truth. No, they'll tell you actually the opposite. They'll say to you, if Shan said it, then it's true, right? Because integrity was a value that my parents taught me that I won't allow anybody to change that, even if that means I might get in trouble, and I have in my right. But you stay the course, maintain your values, maintain your integrity, and those things that are important to you. But just know today that not everybody's going to like you. Don't allow that because sometimes we get distracted about the small things. Stay focused on your goals, stay focused on where you're going, and surround yourself with people who actually understand where you want to go and don't try to talk yourself, right? And a lot of times I will tell you the friends that I started with early in my life, some of them are not friends today. They have a different view of what they wanted to do with their life. And I knew where I wanted to go with my life and my education and my career, what have you. So be mindful of the people who are around you. Surround yourself with those people who are giving you that positive reinforcement. And yes, Tammy, you can do that. You can do it. You can do it. Those are the folks you want to surround yourself with. So that means some of the change, but keep safe focused and don't allow people to distract you from your goal.
Yeah, I think that's right. And this goes back to kind of controlling your emotions. You're allowed to be upset by it, but
oh, absolutely,
don't let others see it, you know?
Exactly.
Like the best way to kind of quote win, I think, in that situation is to really understand. Maybe it's asking questions again, right? Understanding what their problem is with you. And then one of the challenges my dad has always given us is how can you turn that person around and make them your friend or make them somebody that at least you guys respect each other or something. Like what can you do to really address their issue? It's not always about them, but it can make you a better employee or think creatively or come at something from a new perspective. It also is a good look in, right? Just to grow a little bit. Kristen would like to know, what do I say to employers who say I need experience to apply? How do I get experience if no one will hire me? This was something that I'd love to hear your thoughts on because everybody asks this question.
Exactly. It's the age-old question, right? And so one of the things I knew I wanted to do at some point in my life after I retired is I wanted to serve on corporate boards, right? And so I'm not going to get that experience inside Lockheed Martin or inside Westrock. So I looked outside. Where I got the experience for board service is actually through nonprofits board service, right? And so I would encourage you, Kristen, just to get creative about how do I represent my experience? Because you don't have to always work that inside the company. You can actually get it outside the company in some way. And I was going to learn how boards function and how boards work because I wanted to be prepared so when the day came, I'd know how to do that. And so oftentimes I will tell you, and it's a struggle when you're in, particularly if you're in a large company, right? Because either you don't have enough experience or you don't have the right education, the right certification, or what have you, right? And so I wouldn't let that hold me back. I'd figure out a different way that I could get that experience and then bring that back and really include it in my resume, right? And then also talk about it when you're on teams. I've got this experience where I know how to do this. Anytime you can exhibit that new learned skill, do that. Sometimes that requires you to take on an extra project, and I know sometimes that's hard when you're already busy and feeling overwhelmed. But that I would get it, and I always encourage my mentees to do that as well. Don't stand back and wait for the company to give you the experience you need. Get creative, go out there and get that experience, and then come back to the company and bring that into your projects in your current.
Yeah, and now's a good time to reach out to people, I think, right? Even kind of virtual internships and those things are still happening. And for the fact that you can't run around an office and go get coffee or go make copies or file, you're going to get quality work to do as an intern right now that you could bring to a company. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Ashley would like to know how you are motivating yourself to get through life today with everything we are having to deal with.
Well, actually, for me, it starts with my family. So I have a wonderful husband. I'll tell you, I am the perfect wife. Now, don't go ask him about that, but I'm the perfect wife. But I tell you, I love my family. I'm so blessed to still have my parents, and that's a really wonderful blessing. And what I'm really excited about most recently is that I've got one 4-year-old granddaughter, and I got a second one coming August 3rd. So we're excited. We're expanding the playrooms, and I'm shopping online and getting baby stuff. And so that keeps me excited, and it just reminds me of, the work I want to do to make the world a better place is not just about me and them now. I want my grandchildren to have a great time here and really enjoy the world as well. And so I tend to look to my family to give me that grounding and to give me just the joy that we all just deserve to have in life. So getting ready to be another grandma for a second time around. And my nickname, my name actually is Honey. So my granddaughter calls me Honey. Who can say no or be sad about that, right? When you got a name like that. And so
That's great.
everything that I have, and she says, Honey, but yeah. So it's
That's so cute. Yeah, so family support system.
Yeah.
It's not about social distancing. It's about physical distancing right now. You can still be social.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Just carefully, right? Just be mindful of it, be smart about it, but absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. Kadira would like to know what the biggest lessons are that you've learned in life to date, and what do you wish you'd learned earlier?
Biggest lessons. I tell you, I shared one earlier, but I would also say that I have learned how to keep things in perspective, right? And I've learned to look at the positive in situations, because life can be hard, it can be ugly, it can be disruptive, right? But I've learned to somehow figure that out, how to find peace in the midst of chaos. And it's an inner peace, right? One is being very grounded in my faith. That's number one. Number two is really just recognizing what's really important in the here and now. A lot of things happen in my life, and I'm sure in your lives as well, that if you allow them to, it can become paralyzed. Just what we're all dealing with right now, right? Between coronavirus and the protests we've seen, the outcry from people in our communities, it can be overwhelming unless you're able to step back and find, I would say, the boundary, right, around what am I going to think about and worry about today? Because some of these things we cannot control, right? The things outside of my control, I can't worry about those things, right? But the things I can control, I'll focus on those. But I've just really learned how to do that. And I think I laugh about this often, but most of my work at Lockheed Martin was in the classified space, which means if I talk to you about it, I'd have to kill you. And so growing up, most of
you know how to use those bombers, right? So
exactly. But it taught me, because I really did have to separate my life. I had sometimes had two lives, right? One I could talk about at work, and when I came home, I couldn't, right? And so it allowed me to really come home and then focus in on the things that were important. And I really practiced that for a long time now. Wasn't that way probably early on in my life, because everything, when you're young, you want to fix the world, you want to change everything, you want it done now, right? Time experience taught me that, pace yourself, figure out what's important, and set the boundaries.
That requires some quiet time, and it's okay to use this time that we have now to sit with yourself and figure out what's really important to you. And that way you can do what Shan's saying, is to really try to center yourself and figure out what your purpose is. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we'll take one more question. Barry would like to know how you face uncertainty. How do you avoid thinking that you did the right thing, or you didn't do the right thing, or you took the right career path or didn't take the right career path? How do you not be concerned about the fact that you chose one thing over the other?
Yeah, so you'll never have all the information that you need when you're making decisions, right? So my philosophy was always, and that's what I loved about Colin Powell, who's one of my heroes, I guess you could say. He always talked about if he had 70% of the data and he felt like it. And so you'll have particularly when it comes to life things, right? You'll never have all the information that you need to make a decision. But the right decision is one that aligns with your values, number one, that get you to the outcome you hope to achieve, and sometimes it may be windy getting there, but allows you to be in a place where I've made this decision, I'm going down this path, whatever comes at the end of it, I'm going to be at peace with that, right? And so that was how I ran my businesses. 70% of the data, I've got to make a decision. And particularly when you're dealing with people, right? These are so unpredictable, and it's all about people, right? And so you make the best decision that you can in the moment. Things may change, but that's okay. And you're always going to be surrounded in exist in a world of uncertainty. That is part of life that makes it fun, though, right? Because if you have all the answers, I mean, you just be a robot. But in this case here, there's so much that happens that we can't control. Like, go back to what you can and can't control. That becomes to me the differentiator. And so, have I made decisions in my life that I thought, gosh, I should have done something different? Absolutely. But that's when you learn, right? That's when the learning happens. But I've also made some pretty good decisions. And I look back on life, and one of the things I always committed to do, I wanted to live a life of no regrets. And so I can say today, I've lived that up until this point. Have there been things I wish I had done? Like, one of the things that I can say, and I look back, is I wish I had taken an international assignment, right? Because the world's so big, so wonderful, so awesome. And I spent so much of my time, in this small town in Alabama. I didn't take an international assignment. If I had to do all over again, that would be the only thing I would change. I think that's pretty good. One thing I could say, that I wish I had done differently. But things have worked out okay so far. But I tend not to, again, stress and over-worry about the uncertainty that's around me. I just focus on the things that I can change.
And I think that also goes back to your previous point about finding what grounds you and what's important to you, because if you make decisions about your career based on that, then the likelihood you're going to have regrets is much lower. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'll give one example. I was at the height of my career in Lockheed Martin. I was offered another promotional assignment that was going to take me to Denver, Colorado. My husband, we had moved to Atlanta, had only been here maybe back about 3 years or so. And but at the same time, my daughter was expecting our first grandchild. And I made the decision to walk away from Lockheed Martin because my grandchild was going to be here in the Atlanta area. That was not an easy decision. Thought about it, and I talked about it. And one of the things that we'd always said was, faith, then family, and then career. So remember, I talked about having, like you said, Kashi, having those things that ground you, or that roadmap, or that value system. That is how we had always made our career decisions. My husband has a career. And when it came down to that, we said, this is a family decision. It wasn't about the career at that point. And I just retired from Lockheed Martin, to the shock and dismay of everybody in the company. Because everybody thought, well, Shan's on this great trajectory, right? And it probably was. But to me, that was the grounding factor. It was the grandchild came first. And I will never regret that decision. That was the best decision ever.
Absolutely. Based on family, based on your values, and another door opened, right?
Exactly. There came Westrock. I didn't even want the door open, right? But there was Westrock. I keep trying to retire. It's just not working. So
we're not going to let you go. But unfortunately, I think we're out of time for today. And we so appreciate the time that you have spent with us and with our students and young professionals and everybody that's tuned in. We appreciate you, Shan, and all your wisdom that you've shared with us today.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all. I wish all of our students much success. Keep going. Don't give up. We're counting on you to carry us forward. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to remind everybody watching that we do this every week. So next week we have a great show. Doug Shipman is going to be with us, and he used to run the Center for Civil and Human Rights. He's now president and CEO of the Woodruff Arts Center, which is a huge art center here in Atlanta. And so he's got a lot of great perspective on what's going on in the world. And it's going to be great. So don't forget to like us. Please subscribe. Do all the things that show us you love what we're doing. And share with us what you're doing. We would love to know where you end up, what your struggles are, where your successes are. We want to celebrate with you. So leave us a comment You can find us on the web at SuperNova Commencements. You can search me, Kashi Sehgal. And graduates, I just want to say, like Shan said, congratulations on your graduation. Best wishes for your next adventure. And remember, it's a blessing to be a blessing. So stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy. See you guys.